Coulson and Mack go after the original AIDA to try and flush out Radcliffe. And the Superior's plan to put pressure on Nadeer blows up in Shockley's face. Or, really more, he blows up in everyone else's face. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 13. Boom. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, we are entering spoiler territory. You have been warned. Alright, so, great episode this week. I thought a lot of fun character building. Really going into a lot of the meat and potatoes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They do a lot of great character work, and that's really important to setting up the arcs and even all of the action. Without the important investment in character, the action and the resultant storyline does not have as much of an impact. So I think these episodes, we're spending those times looking into backstory, what is driving the character, the changes in motivation for Coulson, hearing May's voice with him, or in the case of Radcliffe, finding out his motivation behind the whole LMD program, just starts to add those layers, and we get to see so much more depth and thus, evolution of those characters. So I'm going to start off with Radcliffe. In this one, we got a lot of kind of Radcliffe story with this. Obviously bringing in Agnes, the original model for the life model decoy, and Radcliffe's main motivation in even starting the program. So that was wonderful. But I have to say, while that gives some great character background, that first scene where Radcliffe is taking off the headset and starts talking with AIDA about the framework, the big world that they have created in order to sort of keep May happy and sedate. I thought it's his connection in with the digital world, I think, that is really kind of that strong emanating strength of character for him. This is his wheelhouse. But they've been showing over time between his ability to create an LMD of people, his being able to scan their brains to, of course, make the LMD lifelike, but also be able to crack into their own secrets, and now creating this whole world, this whole framework in order that people can live out their lives or even beyond their lives. It really gives that sense of forebodingness, I think, to his villainy, and it's really in the sense because it's countered with his caring. I mean, he is concerned for May's happiness. Even with Agnes, his motivation was to keep her alive, and in many ways, he hasn't done anything. Well, I'm not going to say wrong, but the big lines, murder, he hasn't done. Yes, we had the Agent Stevenson's died, but that was really more of AIDA's thing. And he has allied himself with the Superior, with the Watchdogs, Nadeer, who are certainly more than happy to kill if necessary. So in some ways he is able to put on this guise of concern and caring and empathy and wanting happiness, wanting the best things for people. And yet it's his willingness to do what needs to be done, to go as far as he needs to ally himself with people that can do nefarious things, which, again, makes him as an antagonist really much more tricky and much more interesting. It reminded me actually of Spider-Man in Civil War, when he tells Steve Rogers what Tony Stark had told him is, you're wrong, but you think you're right, and that's what makes you dangerous. And I think that can be very easily applied to Radcliffe here. His motivations are positive. They're good, but his willingness to do what he wants to get to that end, willingness to go further and further, or at least align himself with other people in order to protect himself and make him think that he's not crossing the lines, I think actually makes him more dangerous. And of course, as much of that strength of character is, he does have that Golem-y precious reaction with the Darkhold, which is shown immediately afterwards in that scene with the Superior, and who can read and what they can do. Interesting, of course, that for the Superior, he didn't seem to get grabbed by the hook that is the Darkhold, but it just pointed him in Radcliffe's direction. So that's going to kind of put the Superior, I think, under Radcliffe's thumb a little bit more, if he's thinking that he can give him what he wants. Then, of course, back at S.H.I.E.L.D., we have Director Mace going through his own interesting arc this episode as well, starting out that the Hyde serum that he has been taking, not doing too well. Not having the big positive effects. Certainly not the Steve Rogers super serum. And as Gemma quips to him, you are not going to be Captain America because the Hyde serum is killing him, or almost killing him. Could kill him at any moment, at any dose. And this starts that kind of interesting question for Mace, who now no longer really the pure director of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, first we had Coulson sort of replace him, and now he's being pulled even further down, like his, God, just way too many football references. He was the coach, then he got downgraded to the quarterback, and now he's got to sit on the bench. So with this episode, he's really trying to find his place in S.H.I.E.L.D., in with everyone else. Now, obviously, he is courageous. He is willing to sacrifice in that whole scene with Shockley on the Quinjet, or on the Zephyr. As soon as it looks like he was going to go, he was more than willing to jump in and push. And now a part of that is his character. I think part of that is also his willingness. He's trying to find his place, and he's seeing that's how it is. Now, he is a good diplomat, and that's really where his strength is. Even the last little moment bit when he says, I finally found out how I contribute to the team, I'm the blocker. That's not really his bit. I mean, one, there should have been more agents on the ground right there. It shouldn't have just been like the four of them, Quake, Gemma, Fitz, and Mace. There should have been a few more agents in that circumstance. And I think really putting him in that position, you are risking, he's still the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., publicly and on paper at least, the director. So maybe not leaving him to face the entire armada by himself. But it's that sign of trying to show where his place is, him just looking for it. And that's, like I said, most of his arc in this episode. The interesting thing here is, of course, one, as public relations, he is great, and he is willing to use that position and talk and interact for the benefit of S.H.I.E.L.D., but also his moral place. And I think that's what's really important, and that was something that was maybe overlooked in this episode, or just hinted at. When Nadeer was killed, and Quake's response of, well, she tried to kill you, yeah, it's an easy way to sort of brush off an enemy is now gone, or an adversary is now gone. I don't want to say enemy. But Mace's point of, yes, but she could have been brought to trial, and now she isn't. His quest for justice, that really is the Captain America in him. So while physically he's not really going to be able to live in those shoes anymore, from a moral standpoint, he still has that view. And that's what was the importance of the Patriot back in the 50s, and I think that's the importance of the Patriot now in with S.H.I.E.L.D., is to be that strong moral center for the rest of the team. And then, of course, we have Mr. Shockley, the living embodiment of irony in this week's episode, as his attempt to turn Nadeer and use her for the Watchdogs purposes literally gets turned right around as she survives the Terrigen Mist and he is overcome and transforms into an Inhuman. One really great manifestation of just blind racist hatred. I mean, his lines to Nadeer is just, oh, that blood lives in with you and any next generation, we've got to take care of it. And then, of course, as he starts to turn and not her, she's laughing in his face saying, you look how ugly you are. I mean, it's just using, the Inhumans are great because they can really use the place of what the X-Men did historically in Marvel Comics, which is the place of prejudice, of the people that are different, but you don't know they're different. You can't tell it from the outside. It's something that's inside. And that kind of next level racism, prejudice, I think, they've got a great avenue in order to really explore those with the Inhumans now. Obviously, X-Men's over at Fox, they can't use the mutants, but the Inhumans really serve that same purpose here, and I think handle it beautifully. So, of course, with the big explosion, we have the death of Nadeer, and we're not really going to miss her, but we do have a new villain in Mr. Shockley, who is kind of an effect of Nitro, aka Robert Hunter from back in the comics. who's been around for a couple of decades, same basic power set, can blow himself up and then from the gaseous state reassemble him back together. He's done a lot of kind of minor stuff all around. Biggest thing, of course, was his involvement with the Stanford school incident that kicked off Civil War in the comic books. So that's kind of his big claim to fame. Nice usage of him here. And in fact, again, like I said, similar power set. If any of his pieces are out, if his gaseous state are separated, he can't reassemble and thus can't blow up. And that seems to have been what Fitz used in order to trap them. That was sort of an experiment. I don't know if they're keeping in a gaseous state or separating the gas, whatever they're doing inside of that giant cement mixer looking thing that was in the back of the truck there. But that seems to be that same basic case. And it was great effects. You know, we're kind of like what we were using effects-wise for Ghost Rider with the skeleton and the fire and such. No, just a little different. So, fun use of effects, great introduction for a new villain. Whether or not we see him again, I don't know. But still, was fun, interesting, and it's always good to have new fancy villains in town. Oh, and of course the suicide bomber who can walk away from it, reassemble himself, quite apropos for today's time. And then we have Coulson and Matt going after Agnes, the original, well, I can't say the original AIDA, the original person who AIDA's body was designed for. But basically Radcliffe's old flame who is dying, and it is that terminal illness which seems to have motivated Radcliffe in order to create and dive into the whole LMD program. So, again, nice backstory there. I liked seeing Coulson's kind of mini arc in this. Just starting out, his reflection on May, of the things that he has done, the choices that he has made, and now he has this new voice in the back of his head. May speaking with him, trying to keep him centered. I like that. Obviously the willingness to push that, to push Agnes, try and make her do what he wants, that's all very logical. But I also love the fact that sort of May's voice won out and he was able to reapproach her more logically in a softer manner, be honest with that. Coulson's always much better with the honest approach, so that was really nice to see. But overall, that's, I mean, again, not really a whole lot more with the story. We just go to see what Radcliffe's backstory, what his motivation is, and with Agnes, and then bringing that up. So now Agnes is a new person in the framework, and I think that's going to prove to be possibly Radcliffe's undoing, because now there's only 2 people in this entire world, and he's going to want to populate it, and there might be some artificial people in there. Obviously, there has to be an artificial Andrew, because that's who May in the world was speaking to over the phone. Anyway, but now that there's another person, certainly one that looks like AIDA, that's possibly going to bring up those memories, those thoughts within May. I'm just guessing that now that there's a second person in there, one who is definitely more compassionate than Radcliffe, that now May might have an ally in there. But that is exactly what Coulson grabs onto, which again, it's that positive grab, is overhearing that there's someone else in the framework and knowing that that has to be May. So now we have a reason for May to maybe try and get out, certainly hold on a little bit longer, buying time for Coulson to go and get her. But like I had sort of intimated a couple episodes ago, kind of playing antagonist in those scenes is Mack, really willing to move on from the search of Radcliffe. Definitely at the end, when he intimates that Coulson may be giving up, but even in his unwillingness to help Agnes. Now that's definitely very compassionate of him, to be saying, hey, here's a woman in pain. I love that line. I wake up with death every day, you think I'm scared of you. Oh, just turning Coulson's just right around on him. So, I mean, yes, it's very compassionate of Mack to say, hey, give this woman some space, she's been through a lot. But there's a lot of these small little digs, small little movements that makes me think that he is not totally committed to pursuing after Radcliffe, maybe wanting to switch things around. So I'm still holding on that Mack is another LMD. I may be totally off on this one, but I don't know, I've got a feeling. And real quick, I gotta give it up for Fitz. I gotta give it up for Fitz most shows. But definitely with this episode, a few rough spots here and there, but his willingness to dive in, both him and Mace. And again, this is dealing back with Mace's question of where he is, where his place is on the team. I think this puts it beautifully. When Shockley's about to blow himself up and Mace dives right in there and fits right behind him to push them out, even though they're just regular people. See, that's what's awesome. I mean, Fitz and Mace, super, but without powers. Or, no, wait. Fitz and Mace, being super is their power. Anyway, I had to say that. I think that's just a great character moment, and of course really showing who these people are and why they're awesome. Also, Daisy said frack. It's a great Battlestar Galactica reference, which I think is rather poignant today and totally unplanned since earlier today, Richard Hatch, who played Apollo in the original Battlestar Galactica and also appeared in the remake on Sci-Fi Channel, passed away today at the age of 71. So kind of a beautiful moment, but also just a little bit sad. Also, Quake really stepping in to her leadership role when Mace walks in and Quake is talking about the roundup of the other humans, that she has kept track of everyone personally. Really, that natural leadership style, nice, that's starting to develop and really be shown. Alright, so I think that's going to wrap things up for this week. Now, next week, we have the Superior going after Coulson. Has his sights set on him. That's going to be an excellent pursuit to watch. I'm really looking forward to that. But tomorrow night, or tonight by the time you guys see this, Wednesday of this week, February 8th, we have Legion premiering on the FX network. Legion, which is of a X-Men Marvel Comics character. Not a super well-known one, but really interesting. All of the early reviews and notes that I have heard is that this is going to be an amazing show. It's by the same creator that was behind the Fargo adaptation that happened over on FX, which was amazingly well done. So really looking forward to that. You will be able to catch reviews starting on Thursday morning for that. So if you did enjoy this review, you could hit that like button. I would personally appreciate it. Thoughts, ideas, comments, what did you think about this episode? Throw those down in that comment section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. But if you're not a subscriber, why miss anything? You can come back for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, for Black Sails, for Walking Dead, which comes back this Sunday, and of course for Legion, which is about to start right now. Don't miss any of that. You can hit the subscribe button. There's a little picture of my face right there. Come back for everything. And I'll just throw up our latest review right over here. You can check that out. Otherwise, I'm going to say goodbye. So, I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.